Hello and welcome to the Low-Code Café. This is episode number 184 for Wednesday, April 16, 2025. Today we're going to be talking about automating role management using Microsoft OpenID Connect, Microsoft AD, and our OpenID Connect module. So you'll learn about that. Before we get into that, I am going to introduce myself. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plant and App. I'll be talking to you about that during our hands-on low coding session, but also we'll get into a little bit of know-how, some hot fixes for version 1.26. The Low-Code Cafe is an event that we do every other Wednesday, but we hold it at 10 a.m. Central Time each time we do it. It's bi-weekly and it's a community webinar. We dedicate the biggest piece of it to low coding, doing some hands-on work. And so that's what we'll be doing as well today. We record all of them and put them on YouTube. So we're up to what I say 184, but you can get to each and every one of them through our YouTube channel. The youtube.com/plantandapp is the address. We advise that you use the alarm bell and the subscription so that you know to get notified as soon as we put out a new episode. As I mentioned, the agenda pretty straightforward today. We're going to be doing an on the trenches from the trenches segment, talking about some hot fixes that are important, and then we'll get into the hands-on low coding with the OpenID Connect. Please do engage with us, though. You can use the chat window or the Q&A. After the event is all over, there's a feedback form that's in the links that we'll post here. And so we would love to hear what you think about the event, what you'd like to see in the future. Since it's bi-weekly, the next episode would be scheduled for April 30th. All right, from the trenches of support, the main topic I wanted to hit today is that version 1.26, this was released back in June of 2024. There are a number of hot fixes that we have released. This is what we consider our long-term stable version at this point. Very good and stable. And it's the only version, if you're running on any version before 1.26, it's outside of our 1-year official support window. So we do advise that you upgrade to that. 1.27 is available with the starter plan, and it is in beta test as our release candidate. So if you're interested in participating in the beta, please do contact me, support@plantandapp.com. We'll get you set up. So let's look at the hot fixes. I have a instance of Plantandapp that I use here, and we install the hotfixes all the time on this one just to show the hotfixes. I'm going to go into the configuration screen and demonstrate something that we emailed you about recently, that under a release of Chrome, we get the configuration menu doesn't load. And so that's unfortunate. We've released a hotfix to fix that, but also you can't use Chrome to install it, or you have to know how to use Chrome to install it, and we'll be covering that today. The since Chrome and the Microsoft Edge engine are based on the same underlying engine, the symptom that you just saw happens for both of those browsers. But if you use Firefox, you would be able to navigate to the site. One of the things that we've talked about before, though, is that under our configuration menu, there are a number of pages where we do some of our product in low code using our product as part of our product. And so if you were to view the updates screen page, you can get to the update screen and apply updates, even though you don't have even under Chrome. And so the hotfixes page here, we'll talk about all the hotfixes that are available, but since the last time that we talked about it, under App Builder, you'll see that we've released 3 different ones, and the main one, well, they're depending on your there's a fix in the server request action. There's we're changing the update screen to uh, warn you about the SQL Server version update because starting with 127, uh, we're now requiring the minimum of SQL Server 2016. That's because 2012, the previous minimum, is no longer supported and is more than what 12 years old. Um, so there's a warning that goes there. But this main one that we fixed, that configuration page refresh loop. So if we install that one, we'll get that repaired. Other things that were done. There was a dynamic action called add dropdown that we added the ability to set the title when there's no selection. So that's probably not something that many people need, but I'll mention it in case you do. Um, we still support Bootstrap 3, although that will be phased out at some point in the future. We're currently supporting Bootstrap 5, but when you're trying to do an inline edit and save on Bootstrap 3, there was an error, which we fixed. There was another browser-related thing that the change in the browser changed the way that our listings worked, and so you could lose your filters in a listing when you hit the refresh button, so this fixes that issue as well. In the page builder skin, there was a repair related to some search functionality, which I'm going to talk about in a second. And then under search, we've improved handling of dates. There was a security enhancement for file downloads. And the security issue, which we're not getting into the details of, but it was a possibility that unauthenticated file downloads could be performed. So we do advise that you install this. It protects you against that. We have some additional fixes that dealt with search functionality in Bootstrap 5 and file don't another thing related to the same security issue, perfecting our repair to that. So um, I advise that you install all of these hotfixes so you can just check them all and install. I'm going to do that, but we'll let that go on in the background as it installs. May come back to that and show you that it fixed the configuration loop issue, but yeah, so that's hotfixes for version 1.26. Beyond that, I would encourage you to engage in the Low-Code Campfire. That's an event that we do on Fridays at this same hour, and that's every Friday. And it's a good group that gets together, users and team Plant an App get together and talk about what's going on, both in individual programming scenarios and then just some heads up things that we'd like to give you. So it's a nice conversation that happens with our user group once a week. Links for this episode, usually Patrick Anderson puts these on the chat, but I'll do it today since Patrick is out. And so if you look on your chat, you'll see these. These links include being able to register in advance for that Low-Code Campfire event. That way you'll get the notifications. You can get to our YouTube channel. The community portal has the ability to has a forum for asking questions of both us and the community members. It also has the version 1.27 beta reporting, bug reporting area. So that's a new one, important one. And then that feedback form that I mentioned. Today, I'm going to point to a Campfire contribution, one of the tools that I'm demonstrating. You'll be able to download, access the the workflow and the entity, and so you can get a hold of that at campfire.planetanapp.com/contributions. All right. With that out of the way, we'll go into our hands-on low coding, where we'll talk about automating role management with OpenID Connect and Microsoft Active Directory. My plan is to go through the whole scenario. So we'll be starting with the Plant an App that doesn't have OpenID Connect installed. We'll install it and configure it for Microsoft. We'll take a look at we'll start by taking a look at a scenario where I've already got this done. You can kind of see what we're going to get into and whether you want to invest the rest of your hour here with us. But then we'll do look behind the scenes at the configuration. Ours is managed in Entra ID, so we'll look at that. Then we'll configure OpenID Connect, configure the login page to work with OpenID Connect. And then the meat of what we're trying, the main thing that we wanted to communicate today, this ability to map roles. And so the groups that are part of your Active Directory will get mapped to site roles. And will probably be a few things that we'll need to test and clean up and make sure it's all working correctly. And that'll be our episode. So let's do the overview. Let's look at this logging in with Microsoft, and we'll demonstrate it. The benefit is it's a simple login for users. They can use their Microsoft account that they already have, assuming you have Microsoft AD. So with one click, they can log in, assuming they're already logged in Microsoft. If they're not logged in with Microsoft, they'll have to do their login there, but it's the same user credentials that they always use, username and password or whatever whatever you're configured with. And so then you end up getting logged into the Plant and App site that you're configuring. This gives simple administration, so whoever whoever is managing your directory groups, whatever directory groups that get assigned to users gets translated into site roles, and so it's centrally managed. So let's take a look at a little bit about this. Today I'm going to be going back and forth a little bit between a couple of pages. So I have a incognito view of this preparation site, and it's all, this is one that's all set up, and I'm going to look at the users page and notice that there are no users. It's going to get created automatically when they log in with Microsoft Active Directory. The other thing that comes into play here is that we have some roles in the system, and so users coming into this particular system can access, they can either be assigned, they will be assigned to the user's role, the general role, but they're based on their groups, they'll either be assigned to team or managers or both. And so, great, now let's see it at work. I have the site, the same site I was just on the back side of, now we're logging into. And so they could log in with username and password, but we have this login with Microsoft button. They click it and they get logged in. And it's logged in with my Microsoft credentials. So if we go back now, we're logged in as a super user here as well, and in our incognito page. And so it's now created my user ID through OpenID Connect, and it's assigned me the manager's team and user role. So this is the target. This is where we're going to today to be able to make that happen one click automatically. All right, so let me get that one out of the way. I don't think we'll leave it there for a moment. So your Microsoft AD is going to be managed by somebody, and they'll whether it's you or someone else, you'll have to set up client secrets, and groups come into play in this. So behind the scenes, I have view rights into this, and so I can show it a little bit. We have in our Plant and App single sign-on, there's the client certificates and secrets, and we'll be working with the mapping roles is the name of a client secret that was created for us, and it has a client secret assigned to it that begins with Q_H, and then it hides the rest of it. I've got it copied out here somewhere so that we can use it. So that's the part of the setup, the and then there's the groups. So we have all of our security groups, and among them there is the team group. So we have a lot of different ones here, but there's a team group and it has an object ID. This is the group ID. And so when it's time to map, we'll be using this 7AB object ID to, this means the same thing as team. And then there is a manager group, a management group, and that's the 04BA. And so we'll be using that when we want to assign somebody to management. So you're going to need in order to do this effectively, you're going to need either access to or a list of groups and object IDs, because the information that comes in OpenID Connect has object IDs, not group names with it. And it's best practice to map using those IDs anyway, because names can change, but the object IDs are intended to be permanent. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of insight into Entra ID. And as I pointed out, we have these team and management ones that are already established for us, and that's what we're going to be using as we get to that spot. All right. So I have a Plantain app that's never basically, it's just a version 127 with all the hotfixes installed. And just as a bit of housekeeping, it's useful to set up a user that's not with your email address, because when we get into testing, it's going to try to create or take, and if the email address exists, it's going to take over that account, and that will be your Microsoft login account. And so I'm going to create another. It's create another way to access the site, and we'll use that. So let me get to here's my empty Plantain app site. I'm signed into it, and I'm on our users page. I'm going to create a user with this that's going to allow me to sign in. Um, let's see, I'm actually going to do it from the platform's users page. It doesn't matter. Nope, so indecision is a terrible thing. So I'm going to do a new user, and the email that I'm creating is that one. And I'm going to specify a password. And I'm going to just add that as a standard user. I'm going to use the user screen now to refresh. To promote this one to a super user, so that I'll be able to log in regardless of what's going on with OpenID Connect. So this is just a good practice while you're getting set up. And then because this is the one that I'm going to be logging into through my Microsoft AD, I am going to get rid of that one. And so, and I'm logged in under that, so uh, can't do it. So let's just we will get logged out here. Wouldn't let me delete my own user. So, and then sticking back with this incognito side, I'm going to do my host login there so that um, we can be logged in both through Microsoft AD and through this password. make this one a regular user and then go right ahead and delete it and remove deleted users. So now this site just has we'll do all here just to show, but this has our two super users, and one of them is the one that I just created that's for this purpose of being able to be in on the site. So that's the bit of housekeeping that I think you'll find convenient when you're trying to do this first time yourself. So these are the steps that we'll take to install and configure OpenID Connect. We're going to install it, and then we'll find it, and then we're going to also change some page settings because of Bootstrap 3. This product has been around a long time, OpenID Connect, and it has not been updated for um, the Bootstrap 5. All right. Yep. I need to remember where I'm working here. So we're logged in on and we'll be using our incognito one to get this work done. So here we go. Um, to install OpenID Connect, it is an add-on that appears on the update screen. I'll just search for it. So there's the OpenID connector, and we'll say install, and yes. That's going to take a minute, and while it does, I'm just going to go back and take a look here at this that finished. Our updates in the previous one, notice now that we can go to the configuration page and the error, the error is gone. The looping error is gone. So we're up to 126.303. It all works. So I can put that away now that that one's working. Um, so steps, we're installing the OpenID connector. It's going to show up under the persona bar manage section. And so that's where you always find the OpenID Connect configuration screen. Um, and we'll let that finish up. I'm at a remote location that has less than stellar internet, and so that security warning came up, but it's not something you would normally encounter. Perfect. So it's installed, and so now we see it here under the Manage screen, and we can go to it. The first thing that I advise that you do is we need to change over to a Bootstrap 3 format. So clicking this Edit button will get you there, and you can go to Page Settings. And for this OpenID Connect page, we want to change the advanced appearance from Page Builder to Excilian. I'm not quite sure how to say that, but in the using the inner layout and the no title page container. If you don't do that, you're going to see some strange symptoms, and so very important that you change it over to the Excilian. Then we can close out of edit mode. So that's the setup pages for it. Uh, and so now we're ready to begin configuring it. Get things arranged correctly here. Um, There it is. So we've done these first two steps, changing to Excilian inner and no title. And so now we need to enable it, and then we'll add a provider. So let's get that done. Here's the spot where you enable it. Um, there's some options which we're not going to need. And the custom CSS gets populated for you automatically. So first thing you do is enable it and hit save. After you do that, you have the ability to add a provider. And so we'll work through the adding a provider dialog. It is going to come in enabled, but we want to use this option that says auto match existing users. So based on their email, this is the part where I was saying it's going to take over that email if it existed. And we are setting up an OpenID connect provider type. We can name this whatever we want. I'm going to call it Microsoft AD. And now the issuer and well-known endpoint is information that you would get from whoever the domain administrator is for your um, Active Directory. And so this is the correct parameters for our internal SSO one that I was showing you a little while ago. The client ID is, again, something that you'd get from your domain administrator. And the client secret, I have to go find that. Give me a second. That's the one that um, again, it would come from your domain administrator. And that was the one that began with Q underscore. And so I'll pop it in here now. As we look farther in here, we see that there's an unauthorized actions section. This is going to give us, assuming that they get logged in, this is what's going to get executed. And part of what we get from that is two tokens, the claims claim, so whatever you want to examine out of the claims. And then there's a claims token. And this is the one that I find most useful. It's the raw JSON object that has everything that comes in from the Microsoft, from the OpenID connection. And by way of exploration, and that you might need to do this as well, you're going to have to find some way to investigate what is returned in claims. And I find the easy way to do that, we'll just send ourselves an email. And so I'm going to send it to myself. And I'm going to give it a subject of claims debug so I can find it easily. And all I'm going to put into it is that claims token. So the email will just have everything that comes in from the provider. And then I don't believe we'll need any of the rest of this. And in a moment, we'll save it. Before we do, I wanted to show that in our login, we uh, we have this page that is it doesn't have a login with Microsoft yet. This is where we're going towards setting up a login with Microsoft. So we'll save the provider, and then we'll go and take a look at this. I'm going to get another page going here, and we'll go look at the login page. we have a PAA login page that I'm going to put into edit mode. So it has the screen that we were just looking at, and then underneath it, so I'm sorry, we in our Plant and App apps, we use our own form, the an action form to do the login, and we like it. It gives us a little bit more control over it. But on the same page, there's an account login module, and notice that it's ID number 364. Um, and notice that it has login with Microsoft AD on it. This is hidden to most users, and we're going to let's see if I can uh, not hide it. Remembering how that happens. I'm going to look at the settings of it. I think that's where it is. No. Um, I'm not going to get bogged down in that. The item is there and it's hidden, and we're going to uh, we don't need to unhide it. The main thing that we need to know is that there's some JavaScript behind this login with Microsoft AD. It's on the account login form. And notice in the lower left-hand corner, there's a do post back, and it has a big long string ID 364 login. This is the postback string that's necessary to trigger the login with Microsoft. And that's what we're going to need for a login with Microsoft button. So um, let's get that done. We're going to add a button. It's the login with Microsoft button. And so it'll be something like this. And to make it work right, we don't want to cause validation because we don't want them to have to fill in the username and password that's also on this form. And to make it look nice, we'll make this be in a nice primary color, and we'll put the we'll do some centering there, and then I'm going to use a font awesome button icon. I'm going to use the Microsoft icon, and that'll make it appear. We'll add a click handler that's going to be a execute JavaScript code and stop execution. And we're going to just use this little bit of JavaScript code. I've got it prepared, but it's the same link that you saw underneath. I pointed out a little while ago. The main thing to know is this needs to point to use the same ID, the same module ID as your account login form. All the rest of it is the same as what you see here. So this is going to give us our button and going to cause the login to work. So we'll save that and do a refresh, and you'll see that now we have a login with Microsoft button that we can position wherever we want to. As a matter of fact, I want that to be prominent, and so I'm going to put that up at the top above email. Ah, kind of ugly looking. We'll get it better. We'll just make it be full width. All right, so now we have a login with Microsoft button. Um, so this is a spot where we switch back to being a user that's not logged in. And so now we see it has the login with Microsoft button appears. When we click it, it's going to try and do a login for us, but um, it hasn't um, it hasn't been fully configured yet, so we don't see everything that we expect. Um, I'm going to see if we get a claim, an email that has the claim in it, because hopefully those actions are set to work. And I think I may need to actually make that appear on the page. Ah, yes, this wasn't set to show, and so this was the security problem. I'm going to make it appear. All right. So we've made the module appear on the page. So the account login, the normal one, will eventually want to hide this as well. It was permissioned out, and so it wasn't actually on the page. It also, if it's not on the page, this login with Microsoft button doesn't work. Let's see if it does now. Yes. So we got a critical error has occurred, but at least it's trying to do something. Now let's see if we have a mail. Um, I'm going to hit it again. Same error. So back to OpenID Connect and my settings. Just want to make sure what I've set up for this provider. It is enabled. We are doing a send email. Set up correctly. Claims debug is the subject I'm looking for. Right when we have an error, uh, let's chase down the error. On the configuration page, we have logs. Ah, so we're just having a plain regular, we didn't get it configured right kind of an error. It doesn't like our settings. And coming back unauthorized. So this is telling us look closer at your credentials. So let's see if I have these correct. Try and repaste this client secret and see if that solves the issue. It didn't detect it as a change, which aha. So I must have not pasted that correctly the last time. This is a different error, but I think we're going to see that we're actually going to get a claim email now. And we do. So the claim email, as in JSON formatted, it has inside of it all of the groups that I belong to. It has me and my information. Um, and so this is what we're going to be um, reacting to. This again, good to visualize it. I've got a solution that's prepared already to deal with this. So let's see where we are in the process. We've enabled it. We've added a provider. We've added these unauthorized actions in order to get an email. And the issue that I ran into, this security issue, was if you don't copy and paste right, it's not going to work right. Check your error messages. Um, we worked through configuring the login page, so we showed the account module, and it's very important to make it visible so that it's on the page somewhere, so that our login button can work, and so then that JavaScript code got done. So here we are in the um, at the spot where we're ready to do our role mapping, because the user is getting logged in, and I guess I should demonstrate this. If we go back to our site and look at it as an as our admin user, we can see that Dale Warner got created here, but if we look at the roles, it just got created with users, and it didn't allow me to log in for other security reasons, which we'll get to. So we want to, this is, now we're down to the part where it's time to map the roles. And we're going to do this um, by taking advantage of this Campfire contribution that has two pieces, an entity and a workflow. And let's take a look at it. This is on your clipboard. It has pointing out this role management, excuse me, in the chat here earlier. Um, that this contribution here in Campfire has two pieces, and it tells you this is for episode 184, but the two pieces that are here has an entity and a workflow. And so if you import this entity and the workflow into your site, you'll have the pieces to do this authentication. So let's do that. We have an entity. We'll import it and just paste. It's not copy pasting between these. Let's try this again. Copy, paste, import. It's quite possibly my preparation was that contribution isn't right, so I will fix it uh, before you've had a chance to look at this episode online, and we'll do it from another place. All right, given the trouble that we're having, I'm going to yeah, I'm just going to show this on the preparation site, what should happen, and then we'll make it right on the site. I think it was because I did some practice runs earlier and didn't get everything deleted correctly, but that's on me. All right, if you were to import the entity, you're going to get this entity called OpenID Connect role, and if we look at it, it would have uh, properties like the group ID, the group name, and the map to role. There's nothing really complex here. It's just all about trying to make sure that you can enter the group that you want to map to. Notice the role is a role as a type. The other two are type text. So that's what's in that. And then the workflow, uh, that same workflow that we were looking at that's on the Campfire site, if we do the import on that, it would create this. And it's a workflow, and we won't go through all of it right now, although after showing that it's working, we'll do that. Um, but it does the work of, it takes as input that you have a user ID, which I'm calling in user, and it has the claims, that same set of claims that we see in our email that comes back from OpenID Connect. So it's passing all that in, and the result of it is that it will remove the user from all their roles that uh, from the last time, because their roles, their groups might have changed from the last time they logged in, and then it adds them back into all the roles that they're now members of and authorizes them. So this workflow ends up doing all the work of authorizing them. Um, Once you have those two pieces in place, you can use them as follows. Uh, in the entities, this OpenID Connect role, we have, you would create entries into this using the new button, and every role that you want to map, again, coming from your Microsoft AD, um, you get um, the group ID that we were looking at in Entra ID, and you would give it the group name, but then you would map it to some role that's on your system. So in this case, we want to map it to the team role. Um, and then we map manager to the manager's role. By adding um, by doing this, we get the workflow. All right, so now let's see how to wire this in. If we go to the OpenID Connect page and look at the provider, we have all of our configuration, and the main one that um, this one has some other things which we don't need. We were logging the claims to an event, but we're also sending an email. Um, we execute the workflow that we just imported, and we passed the user ID as the in user, and claims that's coming from the unauthorized actions has claims, so we're passing that in, and that this is going to do all of the authorization necessary for that user. So this wires all the pieces together. The OpenID Connect goes to the workflow. The workflow reads the data that's in that entity, and whatever you set up then in the entity is the way that the users get logged in. So let's see this at work. I'm going to switch back now to my preparation site since I ran into trouble on the cafe site. Um, and so when I sign out, I can log in with Microsoft, and it signs me in and it gives me the appropriate roles. Now, um, when we look at this, this isn't the one. We're back to our prep site. Um, the roles that we're going to get are the ones that are authorized by that um, that are set up in the entity. If you want to authorize different roles, more or less, we can do that as well. So for example, if I go to the entity and open it up, and as an administrator, I want to say that if they're part of the manager's role, they also are going to get some programming rights on the site. So I'm going to copy the same ID and map it to another role. So this ID, which is managers, is also going to get mapped to um, administrators of the site. So now I should anybody logging in that has these roles associated with it should be authorized also for administrators. So if I go out, sign back in with Microsoft. Now I come in and I have some administration rights as shown by the persona bar. And if I go to configuration and look at the user, it will have been modified to include administrators is not one that's shown here. This only shows plant and app roles. Sorry for the confusion. But if I were to look in the users at this user ID and my user roles, you'd see that I was given administrators as well. So all that under the control of the data. Okay. For the last couple minutes, if there's questions, I'd be happy to entertain them. You're welcome to put them on the chat. And haven't been looking at, I don't know if there's anything on the Q&A here. Yep, I got one on the Q&A, so I'll try and get to that. Yes, one a long time ago, um, one of your participants here mentioned that I should have used a scope. There is the ability to ask in OpenID Connect to use a scope. And this is where you're asking to get more things from the OpenID provider. So in this case, trying to get more things from Microsoft AD. In our environment, the groups were provided automatically, and I didn't need to do that. But it may be that you might need to use something like group.read.all in order to get the groups in for the user. So this is just part of uh, uh, the setup process and a little bit of back and forth with your database admin or your site administrator, what configuration you need, taking a look at the claims that you get back. If the claims came back without groups, for example, that sets you off to you might need to add a scope to pull in more information, and they might need to do some more authorization approval to allow that to happen. Um, so there's a little bit of back and forth that has to happen until you have all of the information that you need. And then once you have that, then this workflow that so long as you're getting groups, the workflow that I provided will make that happen. If there are any other questions, feel free to jump in. I'm going to take the last couple of minutes uh, to just take a look at the workflow, because that was the main activity here that does the work that makes this happen. Um, Again, we take as input the end user and the claims. Um, I've My first action here is a notes action. These don't get used very often, but they're just if you want to internally document what it is that you're doing, you can use a notes action. It lets you just put in a big amount of text, and so I have documented what a claims might look like as a sample, so that a programmer following behind me doesn't have to do the work of capturing the claims. So the other thing, the next thing that we're doing is load user. I want to do the work that I'm about to do in the context of the user that was passed into me, because some of the actions that we have, like grant user role or revoke user role, work on the loaded user. So this says that I'm working as if I am the user that logged in. That big claims string needs to be parsed so that we can get to the groups that we need. So I am using a parse JSON into tokens to get uh, operating on the claims, and it's uh, coming out with claims JSON as the output token. This gives me the ability, I want to create a groups list. So using claims JSON groups as something to be as the JSON model going into create. Let's see, I'm doing a create list from JSON action. So creating a list of all the groups that we get, and that ends up creating a group list. So once we have a group list, the idea is that we want to remove, I'm sorry, the group list. Um, we have a list of groups. This next action is actually a stack of actions that is going to, we want to unmap everything that's part of that group. So we're doing a database query that says get all of the out of this OpenID connect role table that was created for us. We want to look at all the roles that are mentioned as targets, because the assumption is everything that's on that list can be granted access. We also want to start out by removing access from all of those. So we're getting a distinct list of all these roles that need to be revoked. And once we have that list, we are executing actions for each one in the list, and we're doing a revoke user role. So we're using the unmapped list role to revoke as a revoke user role that removes them from everything. Notice this doesn't specify an ID, and that's why I had to use um, the load user in the earlier step. So this gets them removed from everything that is subject of our entity table, and then we have another set that now that is going to add them to everything that based on the groups that they have. So we're using for each item for each group in the group list, that's all the groups that they have been that came in on the claims. We are going to go look for by SQL every we're going to get the roles. Let's see, let me help me scroll up here. We're going to get the roles that they should be part of based on the group ID that we are looking at, and the group ID is coming from the group list. So we have a list of groups. Each one is going to do a lookup against the SQL table, and then once we have the list, we will every group that is identified, uh, we go through that role map that came out as role map list. So we go through the role map list and um, we're going to grant a user role for every one that they're mapped to. So the role map list map to role gets assigned, um, and it this one does take a user, so I'm passing in the in user, and we're just in this case we're just doing it for as many and not providing a start date or a role expiration, so they're getting that role granted that role forever. We're taking care of that grant though by the next time they log in. We're removing it. So that's a really quick tour of the workflow. The good news is you can use the workflow as it is, and it will do the mapping. You might want to adjust it. You could have variations in your environment, but hopefully that will you'll be able to just use that um, unchanged to be able to get to your to get mapping done. Um, I will just mention that when I worked through this yesterday, there was some testing and cleanup that needed to happen. One of them is that if your security settings, so in site security, there is, I can't do that here. I'm not super user, so we'll do it over here. In site security, member accounts registration settings, there's this user registration option. And by default, in our site, came in as private registration. Private registration says the site administrator has to do something. And so if you, that's the source of the error message we got when we tried to log in the first time with Microsoft. It, it's because the site administrator hadn't given approval. So you can avoid that problem by setting it, for example, to user registration none. It avoids the step for the administrator to um, to do that. You might also want to use public. That's another possibility. But the private one, if you use private, that makes it where only where an administrator has to get involved, or other steps might need to be taken to get that user authorized. So that's one little cleanup task. And then um, we in our whole process we had to make the account module visible on the login page. It has to be there on the page so that the JavaScript can run. In order to, since you don't want two login screens, you're going to want to hide it. And so if you add some CSS, the same CSS I've got here on the page where login content is display none, that'll make it go away. Now your it's visible to your users, even though it's accessible to the form. Okay. That is everything that I had to present to you today. I'm sorry I didn't get to, it didn't work flawlessly, but that's the way it is when you're trying to demonstrate something. If there are questions, I would be happy to take any. And if not, I would, while you're thinking about that, typing, raise your hand, whatever you'd like to do. But if not, I'll just remind you that in Low-Code Café coming up on Friday, excuse me, Low-Code Campfire coming up on Friday, we often talk about the things that uh, we covered in the Low-Code Cafe. So be happy to take any questions or demonstrate anything more having to do with the Microsoft login and this workflow. And by then I'll probably have an answer as to why that didn't work. Um, but if there are no questions, we'll go on to adjourn. Thanks for spending your hour with us. We hope that this adds some clarity about how to use Microsoft Active Directory together with OpenID Connect, and how you can use some pre-built pieces to um, be able to set up the member authors, the membership roles that your users get into. Once it's set up, it's a good and easy solution for your users, and one easy to administer as well. See you next time. Thanks.